We're live. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hey, Anthony, good morning.
Good morning. Our friend Glenn's having some technical issues, so Sarah's going to fill in until Glenn gets here. So let's start the show, David. I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hello, Glenn. I mean, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Changed my hair a little bit.
Yeah, so, you're usually on what, once every 1 month or
Yeah, like a month or so. Yeah.
It seems like you're on more than that. So we're going to talk about fun stuff today, what's going on in travel. And Glenn will eventually come on. I'm sure he'll get over his technical issues. But I want to pull up a article that I read over the weekend about the CEO of Wynn saying something that I said on this show 3 weeks ago. Wynn CEO sees parallels to roaring 20s for Las Vegas recovery. And basically, Las Vegas recovery. And basically what he's saying is, it's going to be a while before we get to conventions. It's going to be a while before we get to meetings, but there's going to be a lot of leisure travel. People want to get back to socializing. People want to get back to gambling. People want to get back to doing what they do, go to great shows, eat, drink. And it's funny because we're in the 20s, so we're getting back to the roaring 20s. What say you, Sarah?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, what we were already seeing this year is that there's always been this pent up demand, but you've got people tiptoeing out, and it just all depends on their comfort levels or maybe where they're based, where they're going to, the destinations, and all of that. So we have seen, a little bit in the summer, certainly at the beginning of the fall. We even saw over Thanksgiving that even though, the CDC was saying, please, everybody stay home, people were like, you know what, I just have to see family. So, I think that trend is definitely going to continue. There might be some dips along the way, but I think once we kind of get on the other side of it, whether we're in that like second quarter, I think maybe that's me being optimistic, but I really feel like that's going to be game changer time.
Well, it's human nature. We need to get back to it. So people forget, we're going to get back to it. I think, listen, I don't own hospitality stock. I just don't buy hospitality stock. But if I did, I'd be starting to buy hospitality stocks. If you look at Marriott, in the last couple of months, it tripled from where it was. It was in the tank, and then it tripled. So I think that there's a lot of good signs. And again, unfortunately, one of the signs is people under a pandemic, under restrictions, are still willing to take risks. So what happens once you have a vaccine? I think this vaccine will come on. I think it seems like it's going to be effective. So we'll see. So what else is going on, my friend?
Hey, maybe I'm here, actually.
Yeah.
Hey, finally. Oh, my goodness. Hey, everybody out there. I've been having the worst tech issues. You cannot believe it. It's been going on all weekend long. I'm just glad that I'm here. Although I was rest assured that I could watch you guys in action if I couldn't make it.
I thought you were at Best Buy buying some product.
As a matter of fact, I was at Best Buy. You know why? Because Best Buy is a leader in providing technology solutions for hotels. And they offer all the major brands that you want out there in TVs. I happen to love the Samsung one. They've got more than 4,000 Geek Squad agents. And what can they do? Help you install everything, take away all of your old stuff, all that kind of stuff. So be sure to check out bestbuy.com/hospitality. That's bestbuy.com/hospitality. Anthony, I feel like I've done my part now. I can have tech problems.
So just be careful when they take away the old stuff when they come to your house that you don't get taken away.
Hey, it might be better. It might be better for all of us. Who knows?
So as you see, our friend Sarah's here. She's just about to talk about issues in travel. So what's going on, Sarah?
So yeah. This is what's kind of been going on. Would love to hear actually your thoughts on this, because now this is in the world of airlines, but this also kind of applies to hotels. So recently the airlines have come out that they have now enhanced rules for emotional support animals on flights. Because how many of you have actually seen people, they don't just bring their dogs on, okay, they bring their cats, okay, but then we're talking about pot-bellied pigs. Some cases, apparently somebody brought on a peacock on a flight. I don't know how that happened.
I bring Glenn, but I still got to pay for him.
I'm his emotional support animal, and it's true. I do give him a lot of support. That's really what's important.
So what it is, basically, the rule is changed where you just can't bring on your pet, because you basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get away from the $115 charge, and you're just trying to travel with your pet for free.
Exactly.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, it's just enhanced a bit more that it will only apply to dogs because, again, so many people were just getting a doctor's note to say that this rabbit is my emotional support animal or whatever it is. And so people were just really trying to get around the fee. And so it was a combination of getting around the fee, but then also people just really bringing on some very curious pets. And so, and they really didn't have much leverage. So I know a lot of airlines have been, letting out sort of a big sigh of relief, because it has been challenging, because they sort of have had their hands tied in regards to it. And I know in the world of hotels, it has been very interesting where you originally we've been talking about pet friendly hotels, and we always thought of that as dogs. And now that has changed more over time. So I'm curious to see how much of this might even apply to hotels. I mean, obviously that will be property specific, but it gets interesting.
I think finally they did something right. Listen, it's a pain in the ass when people are bringing in their pets just for no reason. I love pets. I think you should have pet-friendly hotels. I think everyone should be able to bring in their dog or a pet that's reasonable. However, you've got to pay for the cleaning. You've got to tell us what it is. If it's an emotional support animal, of course, there are federal regulations, tied to that. And of course, we would abide by them. But, every time you get on a plane, there's 17 dogs sitting on your lap and they don't belong to you. That's a problem.
I find it really extremely frustrating because back in the good old days of travel from early 2020, we were besieged by these animals and I couldn't stand it. And what really frustrated me most is because I thought they were taking advantage of people that really needed to have those animals, creating a situation where it appears that nobody needs them. And I think that really takes away from the value of having these animals help people that actually need them, because everybody suddenly felt that they had to have one. I applaud this decision. I think it's great. And I think it sets the airlines back on track to getting people who actually need support and service animals to actually have those animals with them without being scrutinized and getting the weird twisty eyes that people give them.
That's a great point. No, and it's good. So, we'll see how that'll change as far as like moving forward. But I think that was a great move, and and happy to have everybody have their animals as they need them, but a little bit more regulation in regards to that.
Well,
I've got an emotional support camel. Can I bring that next time?
Well, I was going to bring my horse, but
miniature horses are actually allowed.
You can bring a miniature horse.
Yes.
That's just insane. Moving along. I'm kidding. So one of the next things that was actually interesting, also in the world of aviation. So Delta has actually become the first carrier within the U.S. to partner with the CDC in regards to contact tracing. So this is specifically for their international flights that they will be doing. They're going to be asking international travelers a series of questions. And now it's voluntary, so it's not mandatory, but it'll be basically all their, specific details as far as like name, where they're coming from, where they're going to, phone number, and all of that. Because again, it's to just start contact tracing in regards to international travel. So I think that that's a nice move. And again, it is voluntary. So, but I would hope that a lot of people would kind of chime in on that and kind of help do their part.
When I travel with my emotional support ferret, do I need to do contact tracing for the animal as well?
100%.
Okay, sorry, Anthony.
I do contact tracing simply by having your information. I mean, Delta knows where I am. They have my cell number. They have my text message. So if somebody's on a plane, I got off a plane, last week. If there's a problem, I would imagine they can contact me. So I don't understand how they're not doing contact tracing.
Well, I think especially with international travelers, and it also all depends. Like you fly Delta all the time. So you have they've got all your details. They know everything about you, but maybe you have somebody that's not one of their airlines, or they're not part of, the miles program, for example. So it's like, they're just a name. Mm-hmm. And because you can still buy tickets with just a name and your date of birth.
But why is it taking so long to do this?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that, I think also the issue is that now they are sharing this information specifically with the CDC, whereas before they had it.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
That's the critical point.
You know all the answers, Sarah.
No, I don't know all the answers. But wait, so again, one other interesting thing, which kind of ties into this, the next story. which just blew my mind. Okay, this couple was arrested in Hawaii. I don't know if you heard this.
Yeah,
They were arrested in Hawaii because they flew from San Francisco to Hawaii after they found out that they had COVID. So it was this couple and their 4-year-old. And they basically, because Hawaii has pretty stringent rules right now that you have to get tested before you get on the flight. They found out because they were tested in San Francisco airport. They live in Hawaii. They were told to go basically to this kind of like quarantine area. And in essence, instead of going left, they went right and they got on the plane and they ended up making it on the plane. And by the time officials really had figured out, wait, where did these people go? They were already mid-flight. So by the time they touched down in Hawaii, they were arrested immediately, which is
so what do you think? They should be arrested or not arrested?
Yes, they should be arrested.
Absolutely be. I mean, come on. Like,
they willfully broke the law.
I asked Sarah.
Willfully.
I asked Sarah. Did I ask you? I asked Sarah.
Well, if I don't get in there, I'll never get to speak on my show. So, you know.
No. But what do you think? They should have been arrested?
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, it's like now look at what's happened. Now, basically, they've exposed everybody that's on that flight. So all those people that had done their due diligence, they've done their part. They quarantine. Now they have to quarantine on the other side. Who's going to pay for that? The airline? Them? Right. What are they doing? Some of them are living there. Some of them are on vacation there. Then they have to go get a test. What if they infect somebody? I mean, like that's complete negligence. And I think they did a great part. And I think they even took poor child, but they even ended up taking the child away to,
that's the real tragedy of this whole story is that the parents were so irresponsible that they put their child in a position where the authorities would have to intervene and take that child out of the family surroundings. Absolutely shameful, absolutely horrific.
I agree 100%. And it's unfortunate that we live in these times and we have to put it in perspective. We're not used to it. People get scared. They probably had businesses. They probably had to get back to home. They had a lot of reasons why they excused their behavior. It's not excusable. They should have been detained. I don't know, arrested, but they should have been detained and made sure that they're in quarantine and they're contained. They can't leave. With that said, this is extraordinary circumstances. So a lot of people under a lot of pressure. And so I don't think it's as simple as bad people, good people. I think they probably had a lot of extenuating circumstances. With that said, you don't have a right to potentially get me sick or potentially get somebody in my family sick or potentially worse. So I agree with that. What other news do you have, Sal?
Wait, hold on one second. We got a question in regards to this. They were arrested for second-degree reckless endangerment. Wow. Second-degree reckless endangerment. Okay, next story.
Okay, next story. So this actually kind of falls along the lines of what we were just talking about at the beginning, Anthony. So the U.S. travel is basically predicting a turnaround in the second quarter of 2021. Now, turnaround, so we're not talking about full recovery. It is within reason. But Adam Sachs, who's the president and CEO of Tourism Economics, actually came out and said that what we're really kind of seeing is that we're going to start seeing this turnaround in that second quarter, which will set the stage for a strong leisure travel summer. And so I think it's just going to be really interesting as far as where things will go. Obviously, we've talked about this for months now, but again, it's just reaffirming that leisure travel will certainly lead the recovery. But we won't get back to those pre-pandemic levels as far as volume in the leisure sector, at least until 2022.
Make your reservations now. They'll be canceled. Most of the reservations you can cancel, but make them now because I guarantee you once the revenue manager starts seeing that demand, those rates are going to go up. And you're going to go from $100 room rates to $500 room rates because leisure travel is different than business travel or corporate travel. Leisure travel, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of money that are willing to pay whatever they need to do to get on vacation, and you don't want to get in the middle of those people. So you want to get those rooms now. You want to book them. You want to reserve them. You want to make sure you can cancel them, but do not wait because those rates are going to go skyrocketing.
That's right. Make your reservations right now for the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouses 2021 season. We'll be here for you.
No, but it's a great point. And, and then he also actually touched on business travel because there has been, we're kind of seeing two sides of the coin in regards to business travel. But in general, you've got some that are saying, oh, it's going to be shot for quite some, I mean, in general, it's going to be shot for quite some time, but how much it actually even comes back. So what he's kind of saying is probably about like an 85% recovery by 2024. And the reason why there is this sort of toss up is that in general, I mean, the big news as far as like Amazon, that they saved like $1 billion in travel expenses this year because of not sending out any of their employees on business travel. So if you're looking at that as a big, example, smaller companies are, we're making do with Zoom and all of these other things. But at the end of the day, we are also creatures of habit, and there is something to be said for the in-person contact. So I think we will incorporate it more. It's not a lost part of the business.
Well, I'd like to say it's not all Zoom and gloom out there. There will be people traveling again, although I think we do have to be concerned about the recession and how that's going to affect people's ability to financially travel and whether or not companies are going to want to invest in having those employees get back on the road. I'm not so worried about people going to close a deal or whatever it is. That's still going to happen. I'm worried about these massive conferences that people are going to say, well, it's not important for us to send people to the conference, or for them to say, hey, we don't need to send 4 people, we'll send 3 people or 2 people. And I think that's going to be where the biggest effect on the hospitality business is going to go.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because that is an element of business travel that we don't necessarily, we're kind of thinking as far as it's the ones that are going to sign a deal, but that is very much an element of it. And we certainly know the conferences, that's a very different trajectory, but we'll get there eventually.
Great. All right, Producer Dave, I think we have a question from the audience for the incredible Sarah Dandashy.
Whoa.
I know. Is your book out yet?
Oh my gosh. No, my book is not out yet. My book will be out in January. So final touches in regards to that. And but I will keep you guys posted.
Yeah, don't make sure your book comes out with my book.
Well, my book, her book is going to come out when the book project I'm working on comes out in January. So Sarah, we're going to have to do a book off and fight each other to the death. Whose book will reign supreme?
What's the name of your book, Sarah?
Hospitality from Within.
Ooh, how many pages? How many words?
Oh my God. You asking all the details.
How many words?
How many words? Oh gosh. I mean, I think about 110,000.
I got to go throw my book in the garbage.
Yeah, no.
Wow. So it's a book. It's a big book.
It's not like a pamphlet.
I have like 30,000 words. I feel intimidated.
Oh my gosh, all these questions. Wait, okay.
So we established it's not a pamphlet. I guess it's not a flyer.
No, it's not a flyer. It's no. So I'll have it together. In fact, in the next couple of weeks, I'll be sharing. Want to get everybody's opinion in regards to the cover. So there's been a lot of back and forth as far as what the cover should look like. So I will be polling you all.
Excellent. I love that.
A picture of me. That's what it should be.
Obviously.
So you can talk a little bit about the book now, even though it didn't come out. And I know we have other things to talk about, but like, what am I going to get out of it at the end of it? Because you're saying hospitality within. My book's about personal branding, which is kind of similar. So what am I getting out of it when I read your book?
So, I mean, we're kind of focusing on 2 aspects in regards to it. The hospitality from within. So it's kind of just tapping into that genuine, authentic experience, as far as like providing hospitality. It's also what the consumer wants. So it really comes from here. It comes from the heart, and that's what it means as far as the individual level. But it's also hospitality from within, is that as far as businesses, it's not just only focused on consumer facing, but it's like, as a hospitality business, you also have to focus on making sure that the employees are feeling good and in the right state of mind and have all the tools that they need. They feel supported. So it's 2 aspects in regards to that, and many more, and some interesting stories. I have stories from fellow colleagues from around the world. So that just kind of give some interesting insight and examples, and more to come on that.
Awesome.
Purpose and love. I just wrote some things down from my book that I read over the weekend, and what employees are looking for are purpose and love. If you can give them a purpose and you can show love to them, they'll do anything. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to reading your book.
Likewise.
Craig Sullivan asked, when is my book coming out? The book I'm working on comes out in January. I think January 14th-ish or so.
Ish.
So it's getting close. Yeah.
No, my book will not be out in January. I can guarantee you that.
Excellent. Sarah, thank you so much. Is anything,
Thank you,
any final
guys.
thoughts before
You're done
before we
already,
wrap up?
Sarah. You're done. That's it. Goodbye.
Yeah, we got a great guest coming on after Sarah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sarah, come over to New York and do my lighting, will you?
Okay, perfect. I'll be right over.
Yeah.
All right. And don't forget to fly with your emotional support penguin. Okay.
Of course.
Hey, Sarah, can you pre-order your book?
Not yet, but I'll let you guys know as soon as you can.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. All right. Coming up right now on the show from Mainsail Lodging and Development, we've got CFO Jill Lemaster. Jill, so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Jill, when's your book coming out?
I was just going to say, I need to be writing a book.
It's all right. You don't have to have a book, but you have to answer this question. What is your favorite emotional support animal to fly with?
Oh, it would be my cats. I have 4 cats, and I would love to travel with all of them.
I am so delighted that I finally met somebody else that has 4 cats other than us here in this house.
But you can't fly with cats
Awesome.
because when you fly with a cat, you're going to have to put me in a hospital because I am deathly allergic to them.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, I have never flown with my cats, just for the record.
Well, thank you. You know, Glenn walks his cats every day. I see him with 4 leashes around the neighborhood.
That would be a good.
That would be a sight to behold.
True.
All right. So, Jill, I'm so glad that you're here today. And I am not at your Scrubs Island Resort behind me, the British Virgin Islands over here. What a beautiful hotel. You also have a bunch of boutique and name brand properties in places all throughout Florida, for example. And we're here today to talk about how the heck do you think about budgeting for 2021 when all there is uncertainty and confusion about what's going forward?
Jill, if you can tell a little bit about your background, a little bit about your company, and then go into that, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Mainsail is a Tampa-based hospitality company that develops and operates lodging products throughout the United States and the Caribbean. In addition to developing and operating hotels, we also are specialists in corporate housing and vacation rentals. So we have 8 hotels currently open now, and we have 4 more opening in the next 12 months. So that's a nice challenge. We opened 3 of these hotels, 3 of the 8 in 2020, actually. 1 in January, 1 in February, and we just opened 1 in Fort Myers in September. The Fort Myers property is our largest at 243 rooms, and it's doing quite well. We ran 81% occupancy Saturday night. So
wow,
very pleased. I know you don't hear that very often, but our hotels are small.
And it's a real 81% occupancy, not like what some hotels are doing where they take out half their room stock and then they claim to have higher occupancy.
No. Like I said, the local community has really embraced us there in Fort Myers, which is awesome. And we just run record occupancies there, doing much better than we expected, which is unusual to say about a hotel today. So,
yeah.
But so in budgeting, it's been very challenging, as you might expect. We did have.
If I can back up, I just want to. We're at the height of the pandemic. We're literally the worst cases we've seen with the most deaths. Well, maybe not the most deaths, but definitely the most cases. Hospitals getting overwhelmed. So in Florida, basically everything's open. So how do you keep the hotel open, keep 81% occupancy, but keep people safe?
Great question. We've been, I think, 90% of it is making your guests feel comfortable, that they're going to be safe when they're there. We have at the hotel where we run 81% occupancy, we have huge convention center as well. So it's making people feel like they're going to have enough space to spread out their meetings in the business. We also have strict cleaning protocols. Most of our hotels are franchised with Marriott Autograph Collection. So Marriott has very.
So all employees are wearing masks?
Yes, all employees wearing masks. Yep, the entire time. We have the shields in front of the check-in desk. In some cases, they've got the keyless keys to get into your room. Nobody touches the credit card except for the guest. So it's a kind of a touchless, if you will, check-in process. And then, of course, we clean the rooms as per the protocols from Marriott. We've got the what are those machines? The mist the room.
The electrostatic guns.
Electrostatic, yes.
Right.
Yes, correct.
Excellent. So I guess
we also,
yep. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have
well,
all
I was going to say, and
your internet is kind of messing with us. All right, we're going to take her out and bring her back in and hope that's helpful. All right, welcome back.
Okay.
Jill, can you hear us?
Thank you. I can. Thank you.
All right. All right, great. So let's move on to that budgeting issue. You've got different properties in different locations, so you have to think about it a little bit differently. But how do you even start to approach figuring out what next year is going to be like when things are then there's such confusion and such indecision, and different states and jurisdictions might be handling things very differently?
Correct. So, in most of our properties, we've really just kind of projected in our budgets that we would kind of continue the same trend we've seen in the last months or so. Those will continue in the first quarter. We are assuming that a vaccine will come out and hopefully, make travel safer, make people more willing to travel, so that by the second and third quarter, we're projecting to come out of it a bit. We're not going above 75% really of 2019's business, but we are expecting to see some type of uplift. And I tend to agree with everything that was stated in the earlier part of the show. I think there's going to be a huge pent-up demand for travel, from whether it be business.
Calling right now. It's so pent up, they're calling right now. Do you hear their phone ringing?
Sorry.
Okay.
We still have.
Don't apologize. We're just happy that you're making deals while on the show. That's pretty impressive.
But Jill, how do you get your partners and owners comfortable with that? Because when you're doing budgets and when you're doing forecasting, you're going to have to employ people. You're going to have to buy supplies. You do things that are going to be spending money that you may not have. How do you reconcile that? Because usually when people are off their budget, there's a problem. This year, if you're off your budget, it could be fatal.
Correct. And that was, kind of maybe the beauty in the whole COVID thing was for our properties that are open now, we were able to get to the, very granular level of what our expenses were. We are now, I would say, pretty much across the board, at least breaking even, which is a good place to be. Obviously, we're not spending more cash or using more cash than what we're pulling in right now. But we have had great partners. We've got great investors in our properties who have been very understanding. One of the other things about the budgeting process this year was, determining what is cash flow after you take out, all the debt service. And I think surfacing that now with the investors is a great thing to say, hey, guys, we see that, if our current projections hold, if our budget holds, we're going to need some more cash. We're going to have to probably do a cash call, which we've done very few of those at Mainsail this year.
Yeah, and for all those people don't know our business, cash calls are about the worst thing an operator can ever ask an owner to do, outside of of something that put them in jail. You cash calls are. If I call an owner and say, hey, we need a cash call, I probably got one foot out the door.
And I commend our investors. They have been very understanding about what's going on. And again, we have not had to do that very much at all.
It's understandable under these circumstances.
Yes. I mean, who would have thought? We were starting out last year, gangbusters, the best year ever, until we hit March.
Right, and it was going to continue on that way. So tying it into a question from our viewer, Michael, where do you see the majority of your sales revenue coming from these days? And how does that, I'll add to that, how does that inform what you're thinking about in 2021?
Our most of our revenue is coming from our transient travelers. We run about 65% transient, 15% group. We're seeing, about 40% transient right now and about 5% group. We do have some small groups still happening. As I alluded to earlier, we also have good wedding venues, and there are weddings. At first, people were pushing them off, and now they're having them, or they're starting to have them, I should say. There are no restrictions on group, number of people in groups here in Florida right now. It's, somewhat frowned upon, but there's no law about gatherings, the number of people gathering. So we are starting to see some group, and our sales managers have to keep in constant contact with our group people to get whether they are going to delay or they're really going to have the event. But we're seeing a lot of short-term transient pickup though, and again, we're in a great spot because we're in Florida, so we have been seeing lots of people just needing to get out of their house and wanting to go out for the weekend.
Well, hopefully most of it is outdoors. And are you seeing, because I know, some hospitals in Florida are really, really backed up. Are you seeing a need to house medical support people in your hotels or no?
No, not at this time. We did during the height, right as soon as it came out, we were housing some medical professionals.
That's interesting. It's interesting
Wow.
that now that the situation is much more severe on a national basis, but you've weaned yourself off that business. Is that because you feel you could make a go at it in other ways with the transient travelers, or is there some other reasoning behind that?
Yes, right now. And honestly, it was a partnership with Tampa General Hospital, where we were providing rooms to their medical personnel, just to be a good partner. But yeah, now we wouldn't have the room for them now, quite honestly. We see we're running, call it, 30% occupancy during the week, but that can double in some cases for us on the weekends.
And what about your rate integrity?
Rates are going down a bit. In some cases, in other cases, they're not. We've got one of our hotels in Anna Maria Island. Their rates are actually increasing, particularly next year, as we expect more people to go for those beachfront locations.
Which makes perfect sense in this environment.
Yeah, it's very interesting. In our career field, you have to balance both, right? Because there's a public health crisis that's never been seen before. And then people want to meet, and we have hotels. So if it's not illegal in New York City, it's illegal. But if it's not illegal in Florida, I would imagine that's a very tough balancing act. I wouldn't go to a wedding right now with 30, 40 people. I just wouldn't do it. We did one. It was outside in the beginning, and it was very uncomfortable. We did it, but it was uncomfortable. And as far as I know, people didn't get sick, but I just wasn't that comfortable with it. So I would imagine it would be it's a balancing act.
Definitely. And we take every precaution. And as you mentioned, outdoors, we try to keep, as much outdoors as possible. But we are starting to just, see people fed up with, delaying things any longer. They just want to hold the event.
Yeah, absolutely. So then how does your staff react to an event that might be potentially larger than they feel comfortable with?
At this point in time, we have not had problems that I know of that case. But to get to where we are today, we had to do layoffs, furloughs, pay cuts, and then we had some PPP money that we were able to, basically keep cash flow positive. So a lot of our employees are very grateful to have jobs. I think it's, truly difficult to find jobs right now. And I hate, and I'm not saying that from an employer power position, but it's just really a difficult environment right now.
Well, hopefully the government will start to help the people that can't find jobs, and because I think once we go back, say March, April, May, I think you're not going to be able to find people. I think people are going to I think there are going to be so many jobs. I just talked this morning to Boston University class, And I said, listen, getting out of hospitality school in June may be the best thing that's ever happened to your career, because never before are we going to need so many people, because I really think the demand is going to be so pent up. And once people are vaccinated, I think it's go time, and we're going to need a lot of people. And there's going to be a lot of older people that decided this is a good time to retire and go open that pizza place, a flower shop. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
I would also say, Jill, before you respond, on 12/14, December 14th, that's 7 days from now, we're doing a job fair right here on No Vacancy Live. We partner with a lot of great hospitality companies, both on the hotel side and on the supplier side, that have real jobs available. And they're going to be here to share all of that with all of you out there in the audience. So be sure to tune in on December 14th and let everybody know who's looking for a job that they may be able to find one through us. Jill, please continue.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Will it be a virtual? It's a virtual job fair, I take it.
It is, but the trick, what we're going to be doing, Jill, is we're going to be making sure people have real human beings to speak with. So instead of all of these folks that have been applying for jobs that seem to disappear to somewhere in the corners of the internet, we are going to be able to connect you with real human beings in order to take your career further. So I'm very excited about being able to do that for all of our listeners out there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Jill, I want to get back to this budgeting thing. Okay. So how do you figure out what each hotel is going to do next year? Are you basically throwing darts at a board at this point? How do you come to your decision on even how to create a budget for these properties that you could feel confident in?
Well, and that's the question. A budget right now is someone's. It's often said that a budget today is it doesn't mean anything tomorrow. So yes, we layered in the current trends. As I mentioned before, we run, our revenue management team runs on the books for the next 14 days every single day and broadcasts it. We layer in kind of the short-term demand trends that we've been experiencing. And we're taking that all the way through kind of the first quarter and into part of the second quarter of next year. At that point in time, we were looking at 2016's performance. And, you've got to find, that being kind of the ceiling, we've got to find a happy middle ground. Of course, you've layered group in as well, as much as we know about group. But so I think we've landed probably somewhere between 70 and 80% of 2019 levels.
That's pretty aggressive.
Perhaps, but I do believe from a location standpoint, we've got a premium in our Florida locations. We also realize that there is pent-up demand. And
you see that second half of the year coming back as well. Correct. And then, I would also hope that group is going to start really jumping in there too once the vaccine is made available more broadly across the United States.
Yeah, and when Glenn and I are traveling down to Florida, we're available for a comp room to do our podcast anytime you want to offer it.
Well, you have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out. We would love you guys.
I'd like to have a real background from down in Florida instead of something from.
Well, in January, we just got an invite. We can't talk about because it's going to be secret. We're just going to show up. We got an invite from a pretty cool destination, so hopefully in January we'll make that work.
Awesome.
Let's just say that we will make sure that we follow the results of whatever our COVID tests say before getting on any airplanes.
Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, the number one job is to get out of this and get to a vaccine safely. And as much pent-up demand is out there, as much as people want to travel and have that wedding, man, it's better to even, forego it for a little while just to make sure everybody's safe. But if you must have it, make sure it's safe. Make sure that everyone's doing what they need to do. And, I've been, again, a couple of uncomfortable environments in the last 8 months, and I won't put myself in those situations again. So everybody's got their own comfort level. I mean, I look at my friends in Florida on an Instagram, and I don't say it, but I want to call them and say, does COVID exist in Florida? Because it seems like some people in some parts of Florida don't think it exists.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And I got to put a huge shout out to our employees who do face, customers every day, the COVID crisis every day, who've, weathered the storm with us across
Right.
the last 9 months. Our employees are the rock stars of Mainsail, and if we didn't have them, there would be no Mainsail for sure.
Right. That's a great way to look at it. Now, before you said something interesting, you're looking back at previous years to try to make a comparison to it. And I remember during the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, I was encouraging people to not look at your results from the best year in order to find good mental health. Look back a few years to get better perspective as to what's going on. So the crisis that's going on today may not seem as deep and tragic as it truly is. So I like that you're going back to what, 2016?
And it's a good point when you're looking at your stock portfolio too.
Yeah.
Just looking a couple of years ago, it looked pretty good.
I don't know, man. The stock market doesn't seem to be tethered to reality anymore, which I guess is a good thing if anyone's going to be retiring anytime soon.
No, but I'm saying just in general.
Yes.
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 In general, you're absolutely right.
Yes. You did have that show on mental health. I saw that. So.
Yeah, it's so important for us to cover all aspects of this situation.
Talking about that, since you brought it up, how have you dealt with being an executive, having all the stress? Yes, there's a COVID event. You have your employees, basically on the front lines. You have, owners that you have to be responsible to. You have a personal life. How have you dealt with it?
Wow, great question. I have to, I'm an introvert at heart, so definitely spending time alone and trying to get my family to understand that I'm not alone. I also just have a great network of friends. We were doing virtual happy hours probably once a week there during the heart of it, which was very, it made life feel normal again. So it's having great family and friends and others to share the burdens with.
A CFO that's an introvert, that's shocking. But would it be fair to say, without getting too personal, that because it's really important for other people in your position, executives, to understand they're not alone. Have you had tough days? Have there been days you're like, wow, I like this is a little challenging? Yes.
So this was my first role first job as a CFO, technically.
Right.
So the fire hose drinking I started with Mainsail in September of 2019. There was that fire hose, and then you drop the COVID crisis in the middle of it. So yes, reaching out to other people who understand where you're coming from, and just being able to handle a lot of uncertainty has been challenging. And there have been days where I've melted down for sure.
Well, sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
I think people have really understood the importance of breathing in the last couple of months. I know a couple of times I've caught myself and I'm thinking and I'm spinning myself out of control. And I'm like, I don't think I've been breathing in the last 10 minutes. So let me start breathing. And I know breathing exercises have helped me calm down on my worst days. So, I'm glad you said that because it's important that everybody understand.
Glenn? Yeah, absolutely. So what I wanted to say is you worked at Marriott World Center. That is a crazy, massive property and maybe located very closely to the Nickelodeon resort that Anthony may have worked at. I believe it's almost directly across the street, right, Anthony? Yeah.
It is exactly the street.
So what was it like working for such a massive complex and then taking those skills and applying them to a company that may have the same amount of rooms, just distributed over a whole lot of properties?
Oh, it was an amazing position. And I, as a learner, an ongoing learner, I learned so much. I mean, I'd never been exposed to golf before.
What was your job? What was your position, Joe?
I was the controller, resort controller. Yep. So just, I'd never accounted for golf before. I'd never accounted for spa before. And just the volumes. I had come from a hotel where at the World Center, we would do in one day what I had done in a month at my previous hotel. So just getting used to the volume and the volume of staff, employees, It definitely, raised my, I guess my professionalism, I don't know what the word is, but it definitely hit this another threshold in my career.
How many employees were just in the county? How many employees did you have just in the county?
We probably had nine at that point.
Wow. I would expect more. We had at Nickelodeon, which is much smaller than you guys, right across the street, we had probably 6, and we only had 1,000 rooms. How many rooms did you have?
There's 2,000 at the World Center. Yep.
And I was there during your extension. You extended. I was across the street. Were you there during that extension?
I had left before that, but yes, the whole expansion of the meeting space.
I think you built. I think they built like the world's largest ballroom that had no pillars in the middle.
Column free, right? Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an incredible. I remember going over there for a meeting because as I was transitioning out executives, I would go over there and kind of interview people, and I just remember saying, "Wow, this is like the biggest property I've ever seen in my life." Is it the biggest Marriott?
In terms of number of rooms, yes, it's the largest Marriott.
Wow.
It doesn't do as much in revenue as the New York Marquis, but
right.
All of the hotels in the country don't do as much money as the Marriott Marquis.
And be sure to check out our special show that we did last Friday with Mike Sengel. He's now the SVP of Gaylord Resorts, but he ran the Marquis, and we talked a little bit about that as well. So go check that out in our database of shows at novacancynews.com. So, Jill, going forward, we understand what your biggest challenges are already, but what are you looking forward to most with Mainsail Lodging in 2021?
One of our big initiatives that actually we started during the whole COVID situation was, we're growing very fast. We're opening 4 more hotels, like I said, in the next 12 months, and that's an interesting, juxtaposition too, because you're going with your COVID, so staffing goes way down, layoffs, etc. But now we've got to get kind of beefed up because we've got 4 hotels opening in the next 12 months. So we began looking at ways to leverage technology better within our company. So we recently outsourced our accounts payable function, which allowed us to be more efficient and to do more with less in terms of people. It also allows us to be scalable. Our fees that we get charged for this service, are based on volumes. So when volumes go down, costs go down. So we're looking at that, or actually we have rolled that out. We also joined a professional employment organization, which has a lot of technology that we're leveraging. So I want to continue to make those strides as we, start really growing as a company. We've got kind of a hockey stick. We were talking about growth trajectory. And I think it's really important to just be as efficient as we can as an organization when we're facing the future.
So you think that the lessons that Mainsail and the entire hospitality industry learns in this entire time will stick? Because every time there's a recession, everyone seems to forget about the new things that they learned during the downtimes.
I think that's, I think one of the big dangers is, and I heard a couple of people in our organization say this, that they wanted to get staffing back to normal. And I think that's a scary, we don't want to do that. We need to be we need to reevaluate how we do our business. I think, we need to be as efficient as possible. And I don't know that going back to where we were before was maybe it's going to be the right answer. Maybe it's not, but I want us to have conversations about that so that we make sure.
Yeah. And I think, there's some people thinking it's like, well, you don't want people to go back to work. Of course she wants people to go back to work. If you look at 2008, and I'm going to, Glenn, I don't agree with you totally when you say people forget their efficiencies. In 2008, when everything happened, you got rid of room division managers. You got rid of assistant front office managers. There were so many mid-level manager jobs that never came back in most hotels, and they were filled by supervisors or people were promoted into rooms division manager from supervisor without having to be an assistant. So some of those efficiencies stayed. In housekeeping, you're going to have some efficiency stayed because you're not going to clean rooms every single day. And that's an opportunity for people to find other positions within the industry. And you have to be a little entrepreneurial. So I don't want people to take Jill's word and say, well, she wants efficiencies. That means less jobs. It might mean less jobs in that hotel, but it doesn't mean less jobs in the hospitality industry. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, but you have to be thinking outside the box. You have to be thinking like an entrepreneur, and you have to think for yourself. If you're relying on one company or one CFO to make sure you have a job, that's the wrong way of thinking. You've got to be an entrepreneur, and there will be jobs. There'll be a lot of jobs, but they'll be different, and there's going to be efficiencies.
So, Jill, I got a question for you building on that. How do you balance what you see in the books as CFO versus the folks that are really focused on customer service and all of that kind of thing to find what's appropriate spend in all of those categories?
That's the good question, and that's the balance that's hard to have. It's sometimes. I mean, now if things get back to normal, then I think we have those conversations. If we add another XYZ position, it'll improve guest satisfaction by X, Y, or Z. I'm wide open to hearing those types of proposals once we're beyond break even.
I was just in Boston University class, and they were asking me a lot of questions. And one of the questions at the end of the conversation was, what is the takeaway? And I said, this is the takeaway. Know when to shut up and know when to step up. And so if you're in the service part of the hotel, you're the front office manager, you're a director, or you're the general manager, and the CFO of the company is not giving you what you need for service because there's efficiencies, that's the time where you have to pick up the phone and then very articulately make your demand and say, this is why. Give the CFO a reason why. And they're reasonable, and I'm sure you'll be reasonable, but take out the emotion. I used to have a little too much emotion, and people got caught up in my emotion and not what I wanted. I usually got what I wanted because people just wanted to get me off the phone. But that's really important because you may make a decision because you're not feeling it. You're not at the front desk. You're not seeing it. You may not even see it on the guest complaints, but you're not seeing that supervisor go home at night and just rip their hair out because they don't have enough staff. If that general manager, that front office manager can make their case in an articulate way, in a financial way, and also a guest service way, I'm sure that you will then say, okay, I see your point.
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, if you would ask all of my general managers, they would agree with you there that, if there's a case made and it makes sense and it's something we have cash flow for, yes, but it can't just be, hey, we used to have 5 XYZ positions. We need to get back to that. That's not going to work.
Right. Like on this show, there's 2 hosts, very expensive. We need 1 host.
That's true, but Anthony insists on sticking around. I don't know what the problem is. So, Jill, what made you want to become a person who's into numbers and keeping the books right and planning a financial strategy for a company?
Because she's an introvert.
I am an introvert. And, it was funny, when I was younger, I thought, this accounting finance thing was black and white. And I liked the predictability, the control. Yeah, there's not so much that's black and white any longer. I operate really only in the gray, it seems like. And then I found out also, probably with my early days in Marriott, that I had a more entrepreneurial spirit than most finance people or accounting people. So I've enjoyed being strategic. I can get down there in the weeds with everybody, but I do like, being able to be a part of big decisions, strategic moves to make the whole organization better.
I think every CFO should work the front desk, work housekeeping, work sales. They should really be a 30-day program to bring a CFO or accounting person through the hotel. I got my start as a night manager at Embassy Suites in Overland Park. And in a hotel like that, everything stops and starts with the night auditor. So you see all of the problems, the concerns, why we adjusted money off, the guest complaint.
Yes.
So you really get to see that a plumbing problem costs you money because there's an adjustment, and the accountant's going to be pissed off because there's an adjustment. So let's fix the plumbing problem by giving the maintenance department a little bit more money next year so they can fix all these plumbing problems. So I really, as a night auditor, I checked people in. I ran breakfast in the morning when I had to, and I understand the accounting of it. And I knew each code, what got coded, why it was important, why each market segment had to be coded properly. And it was just the most fascinating experience I could have in the business. And I think the people in accounting need to get out into the operation.
I tend to agree with you. Now, did you have to? You probably were the one stuck with all the walking the guests too. Boy, that couldn't have been fun.
Oh my God, my favorite thing is to walk a guest because I learned at the Plaza Hotel. The number one thing to walk a guest is never let them speak. If you do all the talking and you make sure that you take care of all their needs, the time they're about to yell at you, they're already in the cab. So yeah, I am the best walker on planet Earth. But I will tell you the God honest truth that I lied to my accountant sometimes because I would be that night auditor that hid some rooms so nobody knew there were 3 extra rooms. So when it looked like we were oversold by 3 rooms, we were really even because I hated walking people. And I always said to myself, if I get down 1 room, it's better than going over 1 room because that one guest that's going to be pissed off is going to be a lot more expensive than that 1 room that went down for $79 at the time.
Wow, very
Bob
smart.
Legler, who's my friend and was my boss and is still my friend, I apologize.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that either.
See how nervous she just got?
I know. Now I think we're all a little bit uncomfortable at this point.
No, listen, but Glenn, so you understand, every room, if you're a good night auditor, you're a good front office manager, every hotel has its flow, right? So by 8 o'clock, I will know, like at the Plaza Hotel, on a sold out night, I knew that I can go minus 18 rooms. Mm-hmm. Now, minus 18 rooms into 800 rooms is pretty, that's a big number, but it's 18 rooms. And I knew by 10 o'clock, that number should be down to 3. And by midnight, I'm probably down to maybe having to walk 1. So if you're really good at your job, you don't really have to do that. But sometimes on those scary nights that the city's way overflow and you have to walk to Connecticut, you want to make sure you have a couple rooms in your pocket for those mistakes from the third parties that don't make it into your system.
Right. Excellent. Jill, your internet is quickly fading away on us. We've been struggling for a while, but it looks like it's almost dead. How about finishing what Anthony said, giving us a good final thoughts on your part, if that's even possible.
Okay, I think Jill cut the labor from the internet person. So.
I know. She probably should renegotiate that.
I think we can end that now. Jill, if you don't get back on, it was great having you. It's great to get real world efficiencies because right now it's tough, man. It's tough to be in her position because you got the pandemic. You don't want to see like you're being inconsiderate to the employees, but and they want to work. People want to have weddings, and you just got to be safe. And at the end of the day, these hotels have got to be working when we come out of this because there's bills to pay because the government isn't helping these owners pay their bills. Yeah,
I think it's pretty funny. Jill to her auditors tomorrow. Don't even think about it. That's a good one.
The good news is at 10 o'clock at night, the accountants are sleeping. And they don't know what the hell we're doing. So you can listen. I always sold out almost even. I never, I always did the right thing. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you manage your inventory.
Speaking about doing the right thing, we got better internet now. Jill, we can do an official goodbye with her. Hey, Jill, how about some final thoughts for you before we say an official goodbye?
I just want to, thank again. Everyone that I work with, the employees at Mainsail, because we have been through hopefully the hardest time together that we'll ever have to go through. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and come check us out at mainsailhotels.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love that I didn't even have to encourage you for the shameless plug, which everybody gets to do on the show after being a good guest. Jill, thank you so much. You're amazing. Thank you. So, Anthony, I got a question for you. I've always heard night auditor, et cetera, et cetera. Why is it at night? Why can't it just be the next day that somebody does it?
It can. Now with the technology, there's a lot of people that do the night audit in the morning. Mm-hmm. But basically, back in the day, and I can't talk about it now because I've been a night auditor since 1990, you have to push the date forward. So say you would come in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you come in and sometimes they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, the system's down," because in the middle of the night the system goes down. Well, what happens is the date's being pushed forward, so it's going from the 8th to the 9th, and the system is closed. So what happens a lot, just FYI, this is kind of a tangent, but I take your reg card, I take your credit card, and I forget to put it in the system.
Mhm.
So the next day we find your room and you're in it, and we didn't realize it because the night auditor forgot to put it in. So you have to push the date forward. You have to balance out the credit cards. You have to take all the food and beverage credit cards. You have to balance them against the system. So there's a lot of work, and you don't want to do that. You want the system to be clean in the morning. So
I get it.
If there's any problems, you want that to
Right.
all be clean. I know even today, if the system allowed me to do it in the morning, I'd want to do it at night because I'm that guy that likes to start fresh. I don't want to have to start with, with 2 days in one. There's a lot of complications sometimes. You solve a lot of those problems at night. And David, Glenn left with.
We lost Glenn, but I have a question for you myself. So when you were doing overnight, what time would you usually roll the date?
The date probably about 2:30, depending on the hotel and depending on how busy it was, but about 2:30, the latest 3. And then night auditors, most of them would sleep at 4:00. So the best time to catch a night auditor sleeping is about 4:00. You never would catch me sleeping because I was also the night manager. So I was in charge of catching people sleeping. So yeah. So if Glenn doesn't come back, I just want to thank everybody for being here. And I guess we'll end the show. And tomorrow we have another great show. I can't wait to tell you about it. David, why don't you tell everybody about our great show tomorrow? David's not there because David forgot the show.
No, David didn't forget the show. David had his 2-year-old jump on him at the time. Sorry about it. I think I just heard Glenn pop back in as well.
There he is. So Glenn, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to see that we're still on the air, even though the man doesn't want me to speak. We will not let that.
So what's the show on tomorrow? What's the show about tomorrow?
Don't know. Hold on. Let me look at our chart. We've got so many great shows going on this week. I feel like tomorrow might be John Bortz, the CEO of Pebblebrook.
Of course it is.
Yes, but I'm still loading the schedule.
It's John and Jen. So we have John
All
Bortz, CEO, and Jen, who is the president.
Right,
I'm
and then on
really excited about that show because they're rolling out another program in their portfolio, and I'm not going to say anything about it, but I will tell you, I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. And then on Wednesday, I'm particularly excited about having my friend Jim Holthauser on the show. He's the CEO of Focus Brands. They do great brands like Moe's and Schlotzsky's and Auntie Annie's pretzels and stuff like that. But he used to be one of the top Hilton guys. Went and retired. I guess he couldn't handle the retirement anymore, found himself a new challenge. We're going to learn all about what he's doing and how that applies to what is going on in hospitality today. Anthony, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, sir. You have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks. I'll go back in the Wayback Machine, pretend it's Friday, everybody. Just remember this. You've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.